Natural disasters pose a serious risk to many areas across regional Australia. Unfortunately, we don't always help communities struck by fires, cyclones or flooding to best find their feet. Typically in Australia, we tend to invest in the prevention of a disaster, but we don't adequately plan for what happens in a community after a disaster strikes. For communities in disaster-prone areas, having strategies to manage the recovery process is vital. Preparing for the challenges will go a long way in navigating towards successful recovery. The period after a natural disaster strikes is what we refer to as the immediate recovery phase. Although evacuation is generally carried out well in Australia, there are some issues in this phase that can be problematic. An excessive focus on the extent of destruction in the media can lead to post-disaster stigma, a perception in the wider Australian community that the town has been wiped off the map. Not only does this create emotional trauma for residents, but it can deter important economic drivers like tourism and investment later down the track. Broader community goodwill can also have unintended consequences, with an influx of physical donations weakening the demand for local businesses already struggling to stay afloat. The reconstruction phase takes between 1 to 2 years, sometimes even longer, and brings with it unique challenges for the local economy. Unless strategies are put in place to minimise it, many communities experience population displacement. This comes as residents choose not to rebuild in the area or are forced to move away in search of new employment as their previous workplaces temporarily close or downsize. The impact of this on the local economy is often masked by incoming government investment and an influx of construction workers buoying the demand for goods and services. During this phase, a strong focus on getting things back to normal can fail to take strategic advantage of significant government investment. The long-term recovery phase can last up to 25 years. It's in this phase that the impacts of population displacement, business closure, and the longer-term effects of a disaster, like changed market drivers, start to be fully realised. By this stage, kickstarting the local economy and reversing the negative economic trend can be extremely difficult. Through long-term planning and successful adaptation, communities have the potential to become even better than they were before. To do this, we need to start thinking about the new normal after a disaster and planning for how to make the most of significant reinvestment in a community. However, the reality is that a lack of understanding of the recovery process means many communities will continue to struggle years after a disaster has hit. For more information on natural disaster recovery in Australia, visit our website or stay in touch on Facebook and Twitter.